It's game day, Falcons fans. If you are ready for Atlanta to squash the Steelers, drop an ATL for me down in the comment section below. The wait is finally over. Let's get the good times rolling before kickoff, which we will be live an hour before, by the way, here on the channel for a watch party. But on today's episode, I want to sprint through 5 storylines to watch for in this game just to get everyone ready for this upcoming matchup. First one, let's just acknowledge the biggest storyline. It's Kirk Cousins' Falcons debut. It's the largest signing in Falcons history. It's a 4-year, $180 million contract, $90 million guaranteed over the first 2 seasons. And we're going to get our first glimpse of what will hopefully be the end of a very short but a very bad run of below-average quarterback play. Now, Kirk Cousins has a little bit of history of hopping around, right, from the Redskins, I guess, to the Vikings to the Falcons. So I just wanted to share what he did in his Minnesota Vikings debut. What did he do with a brand new team on his shoulders and a lot of money in his pocket? He went 20 for 36, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions in a 24-16 victory over, I believe, the San Francisco 49ers. So Kirk Cousins clearly shown in the past that stepping into a brand new environment, like he can get off to a nice start. He's not going to stumble out of the gate. So I'm optimistic that even coming off that Achilles injury, we're not going to see signs of fatigue or rustiness from Kirk Cousins. I think he'll come out and he'll pick up right where he left off, which if you remember when he went down last year, at that time he was leading the NFL in passing touchdowns. Now, my prediction for Kirk Cousins this upcoming Sunday, today I should say, we're filming this during our live show, 22 for 32, 265 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So I got Kirk today going off for a pretty solid debut in ATL, a 3-touchdown game. Let's go with 1 touchdown to London, 1 touchdown to Kyle Pitts, and 1 touchdown to Darnell Mooney. Just spreading the wealth all over the field. Next storyline to keep an eye on, it's the next big elephant in the room. It's Arthur Smith's return to the ATL. Obviously, Falcons fans have some resentment and some anger and some bitterness towards Arthur Smith. He was the Falcons head coach since 2021 to 2023, compiling a 21-30 record. Hired as the Steelers offensive coordinator. If you didn't know, well, I'll tell you right now, he's coming home today. And before that, he was the Titans offensive coordinator, so he goes back to a role that helped him land the head coaching gig in Atlanta. So I think Arthur Smith, for what they plan to do offensively in Pittsburgh, is a pretty good fit. Like the Steelers, they are going to want to run the football, right? They have no receivers to throw to after George Pickens. So if you're looking for an OC that has a master's in running the football, Arthur Smith is as close as you can get to it. Like, that's how he designed his roster in Atlanta. Ultimately, you can't completely win by just running the ball and having a average at best defense, which was kind of his downfall because there was no quarterback play to kind of put them over the top when trailing in the second half. But Arthur Smith, I think, all jokes aside, is a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think he'll make a good offensive coordinator for them because they want to run the football, and that's what he's best at. So I would not be surprised if Arthur Smith puts together a good game plan, but my issue is, will the execution be there? Like, do they have the Jimmies and Joes to get the X's and O's done? That I'm not so sure about. Now, make sure to join us for our Week 1 watch party today. We will be live 1 hour before kickoff, so it could be coming up in just a few minutes, depending on when you're watching this, or we're already live right now. So when this video ends, come hang out with us during our watch party for this Sunday's matchup. Now, before we get on to the other storylines to keep an eye on, I do want to tell everyone watching about our great sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So let me give you an example of what selections look like. These are the season-long selections I'm rolling with. I like the less on Patrick Mahomes' passing yards, the more on Tyreek Hill and Saquon Barkley's yardage, and the more for Garrett Wilson at 90.5 receptions. So if you like my selections and you want to get some season-long ones in before the season gets underway for some of these guys, or just week 1 selections in, download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Third storyline to keep an eye on. We got some shiny new toys on defense. Prepare to get submerged or emerged with Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon. These are fantastic additions right before the season gets underway. And now the Falcons have some real Jimmies and Joes on their defense. You know what I mean? Grady Jarrett, we know what he is capable of. He's one of the most underappreciated defensive linemen in football. Matthew Judon, one of the best pass rushers over the last 3 seasons. If not for an injury a year ago, he would be in a much higher conversation of best outside linebackers and pass rushers in football. AJ Terrell just got paid. Justin Simmons, Jessie Bates, Pro Bowl, All-Pro talent between the two of them. Like Justin Simmons, I think this might be the offseason signing of the year for the entire National Football League. A 1-year, $8 million contract for a guy who has 9 interceptions combined the last 2 years, who led the league in picks in 2022 despite missing 5 games? Or how about Matthew Judon? 4 sacks in 4 games last year before a season-ending injury. But the 2 years before that, 12.5 sacks, 15.5 sacks. The Falcons haven't come anywhere near those numbers since the one-hit wonder Vic Beasley almost a decade ago. Now, I will say, just to pump the brakes a little bit, you've got some newness to this defense. Justin Simmons has been here for 3 weeks. Matthew Judon has been here for 3.5 weeks. Like, there was probably going to be a little bit of, I wouldn't say a learning curve, but a ramping up as they get familiar with their teammates, with the play calling, with the scheme, with the coaching staff. And so it may not gel and mesh perfectly the first 2-3 weeks of the season, but these guys are so talented that whatever little mistakes they make because of that, they will likely make up for because of how talented they are. So I think this defense is only going to get better. Like, if they're not at a great spot week 1, I don't think there's any reason to panic. There's probably going to be a little bit of growing pains the first month of September because Simmons and Judon, 2 starters, join in the team 3 to 3.5 weeks before the season starts. But then when October gets here, they are going to be flying high. Fourth thing to keep an eye on. This is the one Debbie Downer part of the show. Possible slow start. And I know right now you guys only want to hear good news. And I don't blame you. It's game day. You should only want to hear good news. But let me be the little devil on your shoulder for just a quick second. Raheem Morris made a decision to not play any of the starters in the preseason. I hope that does not show in this first preseason game, whereas the Steelers, who played all their starters in the preseason, they come in maybe a little bit more ready to roll and no cobwebs to dust off. Now, the Falcons are a much more talented team than the Steelers, so they should be able to overcome that no problem. But if things get off to a little bit of a slow start, I think it's fair to point to, well, none of the starters played in the preseason, and they are playing guys who were playing with pads in a real live game just 2 weeks ago, and that's probably going to show in the first quarter or so. And hopefully it wears off after that, but this is just something to keep a tiny little eye on. Fifth and final thing to keep an eye on, though, Drake London breakout. Drake London is one of the most underrated players in the National Football League. And I can understand why people don't rate him as one of the best receivers. Like, there's so many great receivers right now, it's tough to just add another name to the mix. And then you look at his stats, and from a casual, 905 yards and 2 touchdowns, no one's going to look at that and go, now, if that right, there's a top 10 player. But I'm going to tell you right now, Drake London putting up those numbers with Mariota, Desmond Ridder, and Taylor Heineke. You imagine what he'll do with a full season of Kirk Cousins slinging him the rock? I think it's going to be a 1,200-yard season and a minimum of 6 touchdowns. I'm thinking closer to 8 or 9. Drake London is finally going to show why he was a top 10 draft pick, that he is deserving of that upper echelon of wide receivers, and he's going to put up like monster numbers because we saw in doses last year, small doses. He can make incredible plays. He just was under-targeted, a victim of Arthur Smith's offensive approach, which is, I hate fantasy football, and I'm not going to get my stars the football, which is dumb, and bad quarterback play. You get a new head coach, a new guy pressing the buttons, and a brand new quarterback, and a really good one too. Yeah, Drake London's going to feast this year. The famine is over. So what are your score predictions for Falcons versus Steelers? Before kickoff, don't be afraid. Get in the comment section below. Let me know who you got and by how much. Me, I'm going to take your Atlanta Falcons 27-13. I think it's an ass kicking. I think it's like that scene in Step Brothers where they come home after Robert finds out they wrecked their boat, and he starts giving Dale a spanking, and he points to Brennan, and he goes, "You're next, mister." Or was it, spanking Brennan first, and then he pointed to Dale. Right now, the Falcons are going to spank the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they're pointing to the Philadelphia Eagles, the next Pennsylvania team, and say, "You're next, mister." 27-13, Dirty Birds all day.